Good morning. Welcome. It is the 20th of May, and Castle's just announced the acquisition of the Nielle project. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Gigi, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. As Gigi said, we've made a fantastic acquisition in Côte d'Ivoire, the Nielle Gold project, which has some historical gold hits, which are really exciting and very high grade. We still hold up our ground in Western Australia, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But the focus at the moment is what we're saying is a flagship project for Nielle and a fantastic acquisition for the company at Nielle in northern Côte d'Ivoire. Nielle is about 50 kilometres north of the Tongon mine. The Tongon mine was originally developed by Barrick and boasts about 5 million ounces there. So in total, we now have 8 Côte d'Ivoire permits. We announced the CDI East growth pipeline back in September, October. We still hold those permits and some of them are in application. In Western Australia, in the Murchison area, a recent acquisition of ground from a company called Mika, and that's the Mika South projects, and there's some great potential there as well. As I said, focus is on our fantastic acquisition at Nielle. It's an advanced gold project in a proven jurisdiction. You can see from the map how many projects are nearby to where Nielle is. Tongon, as I said, 5 million ounces just to the south of us, 50 k's. Wahgnion, close to strike, is in Burkina Faso, was developed by Teranga Group and bought out by Endeavour Mining eventually. And Furki, which is many peaks not too far away, Napier with Aurum Resources, and Bundiali just to the west of Napier. And Perseus Mining is also very active in the area. But what makes this project great and stands out from some of the transactions you might have seen in Côte d'Ivoire if you've been looking is that there's a lot of existing exploration completed at Nielle by the previous owners, being Côte Minerals, who had an option with Resolute, and it was Resolute that did most of that work. There's over 4,000 meters of RC drilling with some great high-grade hits. And the mineralized trend is in what we think is a tier 1 district and extends about 4.5 kilometers, and it remains open. So although there's been some modern exploration around Nielle, there's still a lot more potential at this permit. As I said, over 4,000 meters of RC drilling and 9 RC holes already showing greater than 5 gram per ton intercepts. We'll have a look at some of those great hits, but there's another close-up of the region that we're in. And you can see again how many successful projects and discoveries have been made in that region. So we think there's large-scale potential at Nielle. The deepest hole that we've seen is just over 120 meters. We're seeing gold hits that are shallow and continue through the hard rock as well. The drilling itself thus far has been reasonably wide-spaced, over about a kilometre strike. And as I said, the strike goes for more than 4.5 kilometres. This map basically shows that 1 kilometre where most of the drilling has been done to date. Some great hits from Resolute back in the day, 16 meters at 2 grams and 10 meters at 3.6. That drilling was done in 2018, and I've been asked a lot in the last couple of days why the exploration work wasn't continued through 23 and above. I mean, in 2018, Resolute had a joint venture with Côte. They did the drilling that you see in the white boxes on the map. The follow-up drilling in the gold boxes was done by Côte in 2021. At that point, Côte were focused a bit more on Mali and lithium. And full disclosure, I was the operations director at Côte for the project in Mali, the lithium project, and I'm still on the board of Côte, and that's why we know this project so well. Other hits, 9 meters at 4 grams from 86 meters. And as I said, most of these are quite shallow, but it's a number of priority drill targets around there. The permit itself is still in application from the vendor that we've done a deal with. We've got a binding term sheet to acquire 90% of the Nielle Gold project. Côte still holds the historical data, and we're working with them to do a deal to obtain that data. Everything we've announced thus far is available publicly in Côte's website through announcements they've made in the past. But no real drill program has been done in this area since 2021, and there's huge upside north and south of the map that you see. So what are we going to do? What are the catalysts for Castle Minerals? Validating Nielle is important. Getting the historical data is first cab off the rack, and from there we're working hard with our country manager, Mohamed Niare, who's been instrumental in working with the local vendor, which is Golden Arrow in Côte d'Ivoire. The next thing to do is to look at how we're going to assess the data that we get and go into a drilling program as soon as we can. There's a number of high-grade zones, as we said, potential for step out and infill drilling as well to define a high-grade gold project, with ultimately looking towards a maiden mineral resource estimate at Nielle. So the acquisition is very important to the company. We do have the other projects in Côte d'Ivoire East. There's over 1,800 square kilometres there. It's very green fields there. There's not even artisanal mining in that region. And we've been working at doing some soils in that area. We did get paused a bit from a rain delay that wasn't seen. It's a bit unseasonal, but we're still looking to get back there. But the focus in the next wee while and ongoing will be to get on the ground in Nielle and start drilling. Just to go back to Western Australia, where we have some ground in the Minerals-Terra district, we did a deal with a local company called Minerals-Terra, and we added about 160 square kilometres there. We're looking at heritage agreements to make available some drilling at the Wanganui project. Wanganui is our first option to drill in this region. There's existing pits there that were mined by St. Barbara, shallow pits that focused on the oxide, and we see a lot of potential deeper at Wanganui. So the WA projects provide a bunch of optionality for the company going forward, and we'll look to work on that. But Nielle will remain the major flagship operation for Castle Minerals going forward. And this just shows you some of the intercepts historically drilled around Wanganui and the north target that we're looking at now, and looking to drill deeper in that north pit, which I said was shallow. There's gold hits below that, 3 meters at 18 grams from 62 meters. Very encouraging stuff. So we've got the two-prong attack at the moment. So near term in Western Australia, as I said, look to do some drilling at Wanganui. We're working through heritage agreement process at the moment. There's quite a bit of soil geochem and magnetics across the ground that we obtained from mica sand. So we're analysing that with an objective to get into some air core and RC drilling in the near future. One of the things that we've been working on in the background for quite some time is to assess the ground that was held in Castle for some time in Ghana. We've signed a non-binding term sheet at this stage with a local entity in Ghana that have been operating there for a couple of years. Kali Mining is the entity that Castle Mineral owns 100%. Kali Mining is the Ghana entity that still has 7 permits, all subject to renewal, and those renewals have been around for some time. With Nielle coming into the company, it is our focus to stay in Côte d'Ivoire and to look to divest these Ghanaian assets. This acquirer has agreed to a stage cash payment of US $400,000 for the rights to purchase Kali Mining. We're reasonably confident. We're going through the DD at the moment that we'll be able to execute a binding agreement with that company, and we'll let the market know how that's progressing. That basically frees us up and frees the company up to focus on Nielle. So in the near term, permit grant updates around Nielle will be part of the news flow. As I said, this Nielle application is with the Ivorian Department of Mines, and our contacts there say it's getting close. It is one of the key conditions precedent to finalising an agreement with Golden Arrow, the current applicant of the Nielle project. once we get that signed, then we'll be able to get on the ground and start doing our exploration. There's a bunch of results there. Obtaining the historical data from Côte will be important, and we'll look to do that in the next couple of weeks so we can analyze the existing results and look at our own exploration targeting. And after that, it's drill, 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 and push towards a maiden resource. At Wanganui, as I said, an initial drill program, just a small one to see what's potentially below those pits, those oxide pits, and then some targeting from magnetics around the rest of the ground. And in Ghana, as we progress through our DD process and look to sign a share purchase agreement for the sale of Kali Mining, we'll keep the market abreast of that as well. Just a quick view on the corporate structure at Castle Minerals, and an important decision that we've made to change the name of the company subject to shareholder approval. Our new name will be Terra Nova Metals, and it's a total refresh for the company. We've got a new board. I joined myself as MD in beginning of March, and I've got the support of Andrew Grove, my non-executive chair. He's a veteran geologist and spent a lot of time in West Africa with Chessa Resources in Senegal. He was at Perseus, where he did a lot of work in Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. For my sins, I first went into West Africa in 1997 in Ghana, was involved in the construction of Bibiani, which ended up with Resolute for a while. Spent time in Burkina Faso with Griffin Minerals, where we transacted on the Wahgnion project to Teranga. Spent some time with Teranga until I then decided that I'd move back to Australia, and that was pretty brief. And once I was involved in one project in Western Australia, West Africa called me back to Mali and Côte d'Ivoire with Côte Minerals. And still there and really excited about having Nielle in Castle Minerals. It's a great project. There's a bunch of high-grade hits already there, and we're really keen to progress with finalising that acquisition. Matt Horgan has been on the board for a year or so now, also African-focused, and as I mentioned, our country manager, Mohamed Niare, who's a Malian national who spends quite a lot of his time in Côte d'Ivoire. He's been instrumental in staying close to the potential of Nielle and getting us on the list for a competitive process, which we've been able to be successful with. So really excited about Nielle, really excited to get on the ground and get the license signed and move on from there into exploration. And I've got a great team backing me up. So it's all about discovery. I've said before that Nielle is quite advanced from a discovery perspective. A bunch of air core that was done there, lots of exploration work on the ground by Resolute. That data that Côte has that we'll get our hands on soon. The high-grade hits that we've published with our announcement yesterday. Building scale in Côte d'Ivoire and converting that tenure is key for us, and we have the optionality of Western Australia going forward as well. Really exciting times for Terra Nova Metals as we become in the future, and really pushing hard to get that money spent on the ground at Nielle. And just a photo. So this is the Nielle ground. It's to the north of Côte d'Ivoire there. It doesn't rain as much. There is a wet season coming up, but looking at the ground and the laterite cover there, we think we'll be able to access Nielle even through the wet season, which gives us continuity of drilling when we get into that, and also supports the news flow as well. And as far as access road goes in West Africa, that's probably a top 10%. So it's a great project. Really excited to get on the ground there. Really appreciate the shareholder support, Gigi, and happy to take some questions.
Great. Thanks. Great presentation, Steve. I think a key question I've got from a couple of people is around confirming the application is in progress, which you did, and then maybe a little bit more on the timing. You said soon. Someone's commented that permits can take 2 years. Are you able to give any sort of more of an idea, I guess, on that timing of the granting of the application?
I haven't had a 2-year experience myself in Côte d'Ivoire yet. Had a 6 months experience. This actual application was made by Golden Arrow in January this year. There was a number of applications, as we understood, and the Department of Mines, they went through a process, and Golden Arrow was successful in that application being received. And at the moment, from Mohammed, our country manager, he's reasonably confident that in the next month or so we'll get a signed permit there. And once we've got that, that frees us up. I won't take it to the bank because it is Côte d'Ivoire. They're very considered in the way they do things. Very um, procedural. Sometimes it takes a bit longer. We're willing to be patient. There's a lot we can do with the historical data to get ready. We can get on the ground so long as we don't disturb. So we can do additional groundwork, mapping, bit more rock chipping if there is a delay in the grant of that license. But we're quietly confident that with the vendor that we've done this deal with, Golden Arrow, that they have progressed it well, and there's no outstanding questions coming from the ministry. It's just a matter of time that we get the decree. So, granted, it can take a bit longer in Cote d'Ivoire, but we think we're in a good spot at the moment, Gigi.
Okay, excellent. Are there any project security issues given its close proximity to the Burkina Faso border?
And West Africa has, had its security issues in the past. There is a road that crosses into Cote d'Ivoire there, just into Mali, sorry, just near the border. It actually goes to Siama. We know the Resolute guys pretty well and keep in contact with them. Obviously, I know Mali very well through my time at Côte Minerals. We've also contacted the other groups that are in the region, including for tuna mining, that has an option over some ground that they call Tongon North, which actually wraps around where Nielle is. So at this stage, we haven't had any negativity around any concerns, even with artisanal miners in our region. And yeah, I've got the context there to make sure that we continue to network on security concerns, especially where that border is. One thing that is positive is that that border and that highway I talked about is a very strong um, security presence. So it's important to keep in contact with what's going on there. I've been operating in West Africa since '97, so acutely aware of the need to network and also to not only look after our own people, but to work with the community and keep them happy that we're doing the right things, happy that we're engaging with them and support them however we can.
Right. And I've got another question. Do you have enough cash to fund this acquisition and to drill it?
Yes. At the moment, there's just over 2 million Aussie dollars in the bank account. Getting the 400,000 US for the Ghana transaction just adds that little bit more, and that will basically cover the first payment and allow us to continue into Nielle and do the exploration work we're hoping we'll be able to do quickly once we get that license granted. So we're in good shape from a money perspective at the moment.
And you sort of mentioned how hotly contested Nielle was as a project.
Mhm.
Was Mohammed hold an important role in obtaining the license?
He did, and it just so happened that the lawyer that represents Golden Arrow is a friend of Mohammed's, so that didn't hurt. And it's all about relationships in Cote d'Ivoire. Golden Arrow received, well, they weren't forthcoming fully. We believe there was 4 or 5 other competitors there. It was pretty much a closed bid situation. We went hard for it because for us it is transformational. As we said in our announcement, Nielle, with the amount of drilling that's already done, it was a shame that at Côte we weren't able to get an extension. Côte had held that project for over 12 years, and there's a limit to any permit that you hold in any country if the work isn't progressed to the point where you are in development. But that's given Castle a great opportunity for an advanced project to continue to advance and move towards a maiden resource estimate. So that is the focus at the moment. And Mohammed's been great. Um, he knows the community. He knows the system at the government. He puts enough pressure without putting too much pressure. And the fact that he had a relationship with their lawyer, Golden Arrow's lawyer, Kone is his name, was pivotal for us. So he's done a great job of keeping our name up there, and and working with us to make a successful bid.
Great. How deep is the oxide profile? And do you plan to release cross sections?
Once we get the data from Côte, we can release some cross sections. At this stage, all of the work that we've viewed from the announcements at Côte and some of the knowledge from one of the local geologists, the oxide layers about 25 meters on average across this area. There are gold hits in the oxide as well. If you look at the list of uh, intercepts that we've published, about 20% of those are in oxide. So yeah, it continues to go deep.
And do you have a line of sight to the resource? How quickly do you think you can move to a resource or exploration target from where you are now?
Exploration target will be pretty quick. Um, as we've said, there's a lot of data that we don't have our hands on yet that we're working with Codel to obtain. Um, as far as line of sight to a mineral resource estimate, it's always fraught with danger when you overpromise and underdeliver, so I don't want to do that. I'm quietly confident that within the year we'll have put enough holes in the ground to be able to get to that milestone. And I think if you look at similar companies in the region, I'm also a non-exec director at Aurum Resources, and they've been very, very fast with our exploration program there and have been able to build up to over 3 million ounces at Bundiali in a couple of years. I'll look to emulate that. If we can get to our first resource within a year, I think that would be a fantastic result for us, the company, and all of our supportive shareholders, Gigi.
I've got a question. I'm not sure if I completely understand. It's what is the price expectations for the data from Codal? Do you expect to have to pay for them?
Yeah, I think there'll be a payment, a small payment. It's not going to be a case that Coda would be asking for anywhere near, let's say, a $500,000 number, because that would reflect all of the drilling they've already done. So I think I'm close to getting there. I can't say for sure where Codel sit at the moment. And as a director of Codel and that potential conflict, I've had to sit the other side of the wall throughout this process. So it won't be huge amounts of money, and I think Codel will be very fair with their proposal. But let's say under 100,000 is something that I would accept.
Okay, excellent. Well, I've got no further questions at this point, but I think you did a really great job of summarizing the project. Steve's the email, it's inquiries, I think, at Castle Minerals is the email. If you did have any further questions, please
It
feel
is.
free to submit them.
It is.
Um,
So I'll just leave you with that map, Gigi, and for all you people that have taken time out of your day to spend it with us, thank you. Nielle is a great opportunity for us with our CDI East projects, which are a little more greenfields than this and not as advanced. And with what we've got in Western Australia, it's a great time to be involved with Castle Minerals, and its future is Terra Nova Metals.
thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.